Well, November is National Hospice Month, and joining us today, the marketing coordinator with Putnam County Home Care and Hospice, Schnipke, and thanks for joining us.
Why, thank you for having me this morning, Holly.
Okay, so the theme this year is courageous conversations. And I think you want to emphasize that because this is a topic, hospice and this kind of home care thing. People don't want to talk about it. And then when you have to, it's almost a little bit too late or too close to the situation.
That's exactly it, Holly. That's why this important theme this year, courageous conversations. It's being able to take kind of back that control and plan ahead before it is, like you said, too late. Having these conversations with your family and loved ones, as well as your providers, is something that we are trying to highlight the importance of this year. So some of the conversation starter topics that we will be sharing online this year are stemming along what you want your care plan to look like. That can be both for hospice and for palliative care. So being able to take that control back, plan ahead, we are utilizing all of the great tips and tricks to get you through that care plan.
What's the difference between hospice and palliative care, too?
Right. Excuse me. So hospice, a lot of times we like to highlight as it being comfort care, kind of ensuring that comfort towards the end of your life. So palliative care, I like to explain as kind of that in-between care. Now, sometimes when you are diagnosed with a serious illness or a chronic illness, you go through preventative treatments. Palliative care can be symptom managed care that is kind of with that treatment base. So hospice is towards the end of life. Palliative care is kind of that in between, helping to manage your symptoms with another care plan.
Now, you mentioned, there's kind of two conversations that need to happen. First, I guess, with your doctor. And I mean, some people would think, well, the doctor should know what I want, but he probably doesn't, or she, if you don't tell them.
Correct, yes. And each of us is so different, and what we want in our lives is so different from the next person. So it's hard for our providers to know each and every one of us so specifically. So it is our duty to be able to kind of help bridge that gap, help start those conversations, and to let our providers know what exactly it is that we see for our care plans.
And then, of course, you mentioned family members, and sometimes that can be difficult, too, because not everyone agrees, and you got to, do what the patient wants, what your loved one wants.
Mm-hmm. That is so very true. And I feel like that is sometimes the hardest step because our family members may have a different thought of what our lives should be, but ultimately it's what we as a patient need and want, and we have to portray that to our family members. It's a very difficult conversation to have, but again, that's why we're highlighting it as our courageous conversations.
So start out with conversations, then is it important to get things in writing? I mean, what other kind of tips are you going to yes. put out there for November?
Of course. So something that we've been trying to highlight this month as well for PCHH is being able to get in place some advanced directives. So our social worker, Kaylee, is a great one on this topic because she knows all of the ins and outs of each advanced directive. So whether it be your care plan just in general, whether you would want to have a living will, a DNR, or something along the lines of a medical proxy. These are all big topics to be covered at any point in your life, but especially towards the end chapter that we try to highlight and help with.
And these are all things, if you get them in order, I assume you feel better, your family feels better, and it's kind of just like one less thing to worry about?
Of course. I feel like it's a lot like Christmas. You can have all of the things, but until you finally get them all wrapped up and put together like a big care plan, Christmas isn't going to happen. So it's very important to have all of those following things already put in place. Have those conversations and be educated. That way you can have the grand celebration at the end.
Wow, yeah, some really good tips and things to be aware of this month. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Holly.
All right, don't go away. Noon Edition continues in a moment.